Today we're going to daisy chain another outlet in this series off of this outlet right here. First of all, let me state that I'm not an electrician. I've worked with some of this stuff in the past. I'm comfortable working with it, but you shouldn't do any of this work without talking to an electrician first and making sure that what you're doing is up to code and done correctly. In this instance, with this outlet right here that we're going to daisy chain off of, this is on a brand new circuit. This was a circuit that I pulled the other day, so I know it's a new circuit. It's sitting on a 20 amp breaker, so I have plenty of capacity in order to add another outlet off of it. So the first thing we've got to do is to take this outlet apart in order to get into it. Anytime you're working with electricity, you want to make sure that the circuit breaker is off on the outlet that you're working with. Very important. Alright, once the outlet's off, you'll see the existing wire that's connected to it. Alright, one thing to note that as you're working with household electricity, your bare wire is your ground, your white wire is your common, your black wire is your hot. That's different if anybody's used to working on cars. That's different. In a DC world, you'll have your black wire as your ground and your red wire is your hot. So just be aware, when working in household, white's your common, black is your hot. Alright, so what we're going to do is, in the bottom you'll see, these plugs are very easy to work with. Alright, so you've got, your wire will slide into here, and then you'll screw it down to tighten it. I'm working with a 20 amp circuit, so I'm using a 12 gauge wire. What I just did here was, in the back of the box, you'll notice there's a cutout where that wire comes in. You'll notice the two here on the bottom as well. So I just broke out that one on the top, and I'm going to go ahead and remove that completely so that I can slide the wire through there. Alright, now that I've got the wire slid through, I've got to cut back some of the insulation so that I can work with the wire. So what I'm going to do is use a utility knife. I'm just going to slice down the center. I'll show you why I'm slicing down the center. The reason why I slice down the center is the middle line is the copper line, which is the ground line. So by slicing down the center of the wire, I'm sure that I don't slice into either the insulation jackets on my common or my hot. We'll cut the rest of this jacket away, and then we'll also remove the paper that's wrapped around the wires. As I said, I'm working with a 12 gauge wire. So I'm going to grab a pair of wire cutters. I'm going to strip off the insulation on my two wires. Don't need a lot, 1/4 inch, a little bit more than that. Alright. As you wire in the outlet, same color goes to the same side. You'll notice, you've probably seen some outlets in your house where you may have a light switch controls one outlet, then the other outlet's always hot. That's done by clipping these lines right here. Right now, since those aren't clipped and that's solid in between these two contacts, that means both these outlets are being powered off this one pair. In order for me to add a second outlet, all I have to do is tap into the second bolt. I could also tap into the first one, but I'm not going to mess with it. It's already wired in and done. So I'll tap into the second one. Since these connections are still in place, the power will come through into this wire as well. So we're going to put the black in there. And we're just going to tighten this screw down. Make it nice and snug. You don't want to risk that wire coming out down the road. Then we're going to do the same thing on the common side. Again, nice and snug. And then we're going to add the ground in here as well. Just going to back that out enough so that I can put a second wire up in there. Usually when I do the ground, I find it very simple just to take the ground wire and your wire cutters, take the ground wire, clip the tip of it, then just form a loop with it. So now that I've got a loop that will go around that screw, I'm going to turn it. And once I've got both those back in there, then we'll tighten it back down. I got that all hooked up. Now it's just a matter of putting this outlet back into place. Leave a little bit of the wire in there when you push it back into place. That way if you ever have to pull it back out, you have some flex so that you can. Alright, now we've got that screw back on, we'll put the cover back on, and we're done at this outlet. There we go. Now we're done at that outlet. Now that we have the wire run out of the back of the outlet, now what we want to do is I'm going to run the wire along the bottom of the bench. You can see where the other wires run. And then I'm going to bring it up on the outside of the bench up the wall. Alright, so as I said, all I wanted to do was secure that line along the bottom. So you'll see here's the new line I ran. I ran it kind of in line with the other one. Took it around the corner. Back over to there, and then that's where I'm going to go up at the wall, is at that back side right there. Alright, so I've already mounted the box at the top of the wall. These boxes are for new construction, so they simply nail into the wall. They're very simple to work with. You'll see there's the line down there that I'm going to pull up through the wall up into the box. And the whole purpose for that box is to provide outlets for this charging station that I'm building for all of my cordless batteries. Get the spool up there, figure out about how much I'm going to pull out of it. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut the wire. Okay, just like we did on the bottom, we're going to cut off the insulation. Again, down the center. By cutting down the center, I'm not cutting into any of the white or black jackets. And trim off about 1/4 inch again as we did before. Okay, now that's ready to wire up. Because this outlet that I'm building in here, I'm also going to daisy chain off to another outlet. Okay, this outlet that I'm putting up here, if you haven't noticed, this is a 2-gang box. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting in 2 outlets. What I've done is I've already wired the back of the outlets together. One thing I didn't mention earlier, make sure that you look at the back of your outlets. The hot wire has a hot side, the common wire has a common side, so make sure you're wiring them to the correct sides. So I've wired these 2 outlets together. I'm going to bring this line in on one of the outlets. I'm going to take this line off on the other outlet. So when I put the outlets in, it's going to be like this. So this line I'm going to feed this outlet with. This line, I'll bring it off of this outlet. Then I've also made a ground wire that when I hook it all together will link these 2 outlets together as I've done with these wires. Again, tighten it down nice and tight.